Tetris, Columns, Puzzle Bubble, Dr. Mario, Peggle. All great puzzle games with simple characteristics to drive you just to have one more go. And before you know it, hours have gone by and all you've really been doing is just matching up shapes and colours in a simple but really fun way. And I love them. I try to get maybe 1 or 2 puzzle games each console generation just because they're so damn fun and addictive. But every so often there is a lesser known puzzle game that might swoop in under the radar that a lot of people might miss, and they tend to have their own unique, obscure take on the genre. And sometimes these games are lost to time, locked on the platform that they first debuted in. Take for example Wetrix. It's a kind of 3D Tetris-like game that first debuted on the N64 in 1998. There are ports to Windows, Dreamcast and Game Boy Color as well. But I do consider it a real hidden gem for the N64, and if you've played a lot of puzzle games, this one is something a little different. It is not a simple Tetris clone. A simple mistake, even at the very beginning of the game when you're first setting up your first few blocks, can cost you dearly later on. Now my favourite version of this game is the N64 original. It had a haunting soundtrack, a really cool narrator, and a look and feel that just looked like it came straight out of an arcade game. Sadly I don't have that version anymore, and I later got the Windows version, which is similar, but there's a few differences such as the soundtrack and the menus are a bit different. But nowadays if you try to play the PC version of Wetrix, you're playing on a really tiny little screen, and I can't find any way of making it any bigger. So I'm now left with this sequel for Wetrix, which I discovered many years later, which is on the PlayStation 2 called Aqua Aqua Wetrix 2. Now I do prefer the N64 version now for many reasons, the first of which being the look and feel. They completely changed Wetrix 2 to be more cutesy. It's probably capitalise on the Puzzle Bubble kind of craze. They had these cute little Aqua characters. They're just dumb. They look dumb, they sound dumb, and I hate them. They look really bad and the animation's really janky, and it's that early CG floaty style that hasn't aged well. They run around your playfield and make stupid noises, and I guess it was the developers' attempt to sort of give Wetrix more personality and a mascot, but it really didn't need it. But at the end of the day, Wetrix, its gameplay that I know and love, still beats at the heart of this game, and it will be the version of the game that I attempt to get a new personal best on today. Now I can't remember what my high scores were back in the day, but I've given myself a goal of 50 million points. Now to set like some sort of precedence and idea about how good that is, the biggest record I could find online was from a guy called Mats, all in capitals, exclamation mark, on YouTube, who scored 102 million points, 776,901 to be precise. So getting half the world record is a good start for me. Now, he did score this on the original Wetrix on the N64. I don't know how comparable the two versions are, but it's a starting point and that's what I'm looking for. So let me talk you through the game, how it plays, why I find Wetrix so interesting, the obstacles and the strategies, as I tell you my story of my attempt to get a new personal best of over 50 million points.
Wetrix.
There is a lot to think about in Wetrix. The objective is to collect and evaporate water. The more water you evaporate, the more points you earn. If water drips over the side of your playfield, it will collect in this tube, and if the water reaches the top, it's game over. To prevent water dripping over the side, you have to build a perimeter wall with up arrows that fall from the sky. These raise the land and allow you to sculpt your play area. Once you have made a perimeter wall, you can dump the water in the middle of your created lake, filling any gaps you may have missed in your walls, and then when you come across a fireball, drop it into the water to evaporate it and score points. Simple, right? Well, having one lake doesn't net you too many points in fact, so there are ways to increase your score multiplier. You have the option to create smaller lakes within the playfield, and if you make them tall enough and fill them with enough water, a cute little animal will float on the surface to symbolise your score is now being doubled. And you can structure your playfield in a multitude of ways to fit as many of these lakes in as possible. When it gets more complicated, you see you are limited on how high you can raise your terrain. On the screen is an earthquake meter. Each time you raise the ground, this meter will fill. Raise it too high and the playfield will shake and your walls will be ruined, spilling any contained water over the sides. This can be devastating and can end a play session instantly. So you can't go crazy with making too many lakes and raising too much land. You also have to prepare yourself for long strings of unwanted up arrows that could trigger an earthquake if you haven't left enough room on the meter. So, it is a good idea to have a landfill site or dump area. This is a place on your playfield to dispose of any unwanted blocks until you get a bomb to demolish it and lower the earthquake meter. You can also use down arrows to further trim down the unwanted land, and if you are really desperate, decide to use a fireball to destroy the land masses instead of claiming points from evaporating water. These are tough calls in the heat of the moment, trust me. So it all becomes a gambit on how much you can push your luck, striking a good balance between plenty of lake multipliers and room on the earthquake meter to survive any combination of blocks you are presented with. And finally, there is a rainbow multiplier. This is a 10-time bonus that will open when you have a high level of water on your playfield. Now we are talking big points here. Add this multiplier to all the lakes you have made, bolstered by the level you are on, scores can really go through the roof. Especially if you find a setup where you can store enough water, keep the earthquake meter low, and have plenty of lakes to keep the rainbow constantly in play. There is a little more to Wetrix, but that's the basics. Wetrix. I love Wetrix. It can be a real challenge and every game turns out a little different. Even if you're always trying for the same strategy, you always go in with a plan on how to build your land, but it never quite comes out the same way twice. As the game goes on, it not only gets faster and you get less opportunities to evaporate water, more opportunities to cause an earthquake, you also get things such as mines that blow holes in your landscape should you evaporate water they float in, as well as ice cubes that freeze the biggest collection of water in your landscape, meaning you have to either wait for it to fall or wish on 2 fireballs in a row to melt the ice, then evaporate the water. Good luck with that. There are some very clever techniques to force these hazard blocks to fall in certain places to negate their effects on the game, like putting a lake in the middle of your biggest collection of water to trick the ice cube into freezing this small section instead so you carry on your day. But for me, I got the best results from building lakes in all 4 corners with a lake between each to keep it quick and simple. But the biggest challenge to Wetrix is how long the games can be. Once you get into a rhythm, you can settle in for the best part of an hour or more. One lapse in concentration could be devastating to your final score. It really is a test of endurance. You will eventually lose, that's inevitable, but if you don't take enough risks, you could be playing for hours for very few points in the end. Take too many risks and it could be over at the most crucial moment. Really, my age-old strategy seemed to suit me best. Until one night on the One Life Left chat, someone mentioned a new rule that I'd completely not realised was a thing.
What the little green things that are running around, they are things that should not be in this game. They should be deleted. And if you get a chance to check out the N64 version instead of this, they don't exist. The items are part of the bingo bonus. You get different effects depending on which lines you fill. Oh, really? So do you have any control over what items come in? The effect gives bonus multipliers. Example, filling line 1, 2, 3, 4 gives double rainbow with a 20 times multiplier. I did not know that. So how do you control those then? Because that's obviously the key to me beating my top score tonight. Is it because of where you evaporate stuff? Is that what it's... Looks like you can't control it, but the items drop when you evaporate a lake. This is what I'm saying. So I always get them in the middle because that's where I drop my evaporations. So I'm thinking if I evaporate each of my lakes in turn, maybe I can control the bingo? We have a new strategy.
I tried my hardest to ignore those stupid aqua characters that are in Wetrix 2 and pretend I was playing Wetrix on N64. But because of this, I was missing out on a new mechanic that Wetrix 2 has. At the bottom left of the screen is a grid. When you evaporate water, depending on where you evaporated that water on the playfield, you fill in a square on this grid with a prize. If you get a line on the grid, you get a bonus ranging from higher multipliers, bonus effects and all sorts of things. So I went to work on how I could use this mechanic and adapt it to my challenge of trying to score the highest points I could. As I played around with this new technique to evaporate lakes in situations I never would before, I untrained myself to play this new way and quickly found these bonuses were so quick to end once the status effects were added, and therefore so inconsequential that it barely seemed worth all the effort just to trigger them. Still, it was worth knowing they existed and gave me more options to go with if things started to get difficult. And if they helped extend my play, I was all up for that. I was getting reasonably high scores, not 50 million like I wanted, but what I was trying seemed too dependent on luck and what blocks I got. I needed to do something to control the playfield more. I did learn during practice that the down arrow blocks allow you to thin out the walls more. Doing this a little everywhere you could soon adds up to a large deduction in the earthquake meter. This seems so simple now, and I can't believe I didn't do it earlier. The down blocks I had always used to tidy up my mistakes, but I could also use them to thin out the lake walls all around my landscape. So when I got to the later levels where they're piling on the up arrows, I can afford more of them in the dumping ground before an earthquake hits. This was crucial for me to get the best score I could. Would all of this be enough for me to get a new personal best? Let's take a look, and because Wetrix is not a short playing game, I will speed up the game and talk you through my journey on the mission to try and achieve over 50 million points.
Wetrix.
So this is me building my perimeter wall. Again, there are different ways of doing this, but for me I try to fill out the outside of the wall as quickly as possible. So when I do get the water, because the tube doesn't fill up quite so quickly to begin with, so you can get away with a lot more. So I try to sort of risk that just so I can get the best perimeter wall set up as I possibly can. On the bottom left there, I've already started on my lakes. So I've got them close together so I can drop water in between them all, try and get those multipliers as quickly as possible. There's your first rainbow multiplier, which quickly goes away. And you can see the whales are starting to fill out on there as it goes. And there's what I was talking about earlier with the green arrows. So I dropped a 4x4 right in the centre to thin out the walls more. And as a result of that, when I get onto the later levels, the reduction everywhere has reduced them enough for me to get away with a little bit more before I have to worry about an earthquake. Made a bit of a mistake there, but nothing too bad. And that's not a bad kind of setup really to begin with. Plenty of space, plenty of manoeuvrability. Filling out with those extra lakes around the outside, and there's again me trying to thin out the walls as much as possible. And I had, at the bottom I had a little bit of a trouble, because if I put a square upper in there, that would have probably been a bit too much, so I've had to sort of cobble something together with the leftover bits, which has left me with a bit of an ugly lake with a gap in it. But I have to make the most of what I've got, because apart from that, that's not a bad setup, and it's looking pretty good so far. So I've repaired the little gap in the wall I had there. It's still pretty ugly, so I'm going to do what I can to try and tidy that up. But sometimes it's just best just to... You see how close the earthquake meter got there, because I'd made... And this is what I mean by it really, you really need to be careful how you set up your land. So that ugly lake at the bottom of the level has meant that my earthquake meter is a little higher than what I would like. So every little bit counts, and I really need to utilise those down arrows a little bit more than what I am here to try and make sure that earthquake meter doesn't cost me later, because when I get onto those later levels, and as you see there, I just did a down arrow in the middle to try and give me some breathing room. When you get onto the later levels, they really will hammer how many ups you get compared to downs and evaporates and bombs. So. And now it's about the grind, so I'm settling into a rhythm. I'm trying to make sure I balance out my fireballs to my ice cubes, so yeah, as you saw there, the ice cube will always go after your biggest collection of water. So it's about finding that rhythm, putting on the brakes if the ice comes along, to make sure that you're not going to be freezing where you can score your points, and making sure you get that fireball as quickly as possible before your ice comes back like that. It does mean that your multiplier is going away though, which is a bit of a problem, and can cause issues, but better that than you get stuck in the middle with constant ice. And many people don't realise this, but the level is constantly dripping water. It's raining, so sometimes a drip of water will get in between your two lakes and freeze two at the same time. So that's not a glitch, that's just the rain there. Now I'm on level 5, which means they start chucking mines at you. If you evaporate the mines, it will blow up a section of the map that you've evaporated where the mines lay. So I can't at the moment evaporate anything in the middle, otherwise that will blow a hole in my level. So again, that's another thing to just sort of change your timing of what you're doing. And at that bingo bonus, at the bottom left, I've lined up quite a few there. I've got 4 opportunities for a bingo if I need them. But again, they're so quick to end, and you can't always claim the points that they give you until you get a evaporator, which is kind of counterintuitive because you need an evaporator to start a bingo, and you need another evaporator to claim the points. So I keep them there just in case the opportunity comes up, but I found just going for them causes more harm than good. And as I say, this is going really well, but again, I'm only on 17 million points, and I've got a long way to go. So I have to keep going and get my timing right. But at any moment, things can go wrong as things start to speed up, and that could be the end of my run. There's that ice causing issues. Now that ice is going to keep filling up, and I've gone with a bingo there on the basis that ice was building up, and if I didn't have something to protect myself, then the ice could have kept in a loop. And that bingo bonus has given me double lake power, but again I've got to. It's really tough to sort of get those bonuses. So I've gone from 17 million to 24 million. So I suppose they do enough. That was close. So let me explain just what happened here. It's going really quickly, but I went to evaporate. The mines dropped into the middle, and then I panicked, had to relocate, and caused all kinds of issues. And then I just had to drop the block I had where. So now I've got this ugly bit in the middle, which again is going to cause me problems with my earthquake. So I have to quickly fix that. But that's how quickly it can be. You just have to. You quickly go, oh nope, scream on the brakes, move it, and that's when this 3D environment means that your items will smash into things that you don't want them to. But it does make Wetrix more interesting as a result. So again, I'm trying to build up the bingo before it gets too weak. I've got a power lake there, which again gives you more points from the whales that are in my lakes. But again, it's over so quickly, so you only really get a chance to do one claim on that. Right, so like I said, settling in, moving along. This is, I think, is where, yeah. So there's the danger of the ice. If you get the wrong timing on the ice, you could get a loop of fireball, ice. Or rather ice, then fireball, then ice and fireball, and you never get a chance to stop it from coming. So I had 2 fireballs there, and I'm lucky I got a third. But do you evaporate the ice to have another ice, freeze it again before you get the next fireball? This is one of those quick decisions you have to make. Or do you evaporate one of your lakes around the outside just to keep it going? See, I chose to evaporate the ice there. Am I going to get another fireball? Got another fireball in time, but ooh, those mines just dropped slightly afterwards. So again, I could have got caught out there. But yeah, and now it's a case of just slowing down and well, not slowing down, but just keeping into a rhythm as long as I can. I'm getting close, as you can see, to 50 million points. So I'm sweating here as I go, and I will slow it down in a moment just so you can see me cross the threshold, or get close to the threshold. Here we go. So this is the actual speed of the game as it's going, and I've got this big horrible chunk of land which is really annoying me, but I'm so close to 50 million, and I know I'm going to make it. And now 50 million doesn't seem too bad, There we go. That pushes me over to 50. Now I'm like, okay, I've done it. Let's see how far I can take this thing. So, feeling pretty confident here. But this is where the game really will test your initial setup. Have you thinned out enough of the walls? Have you got a good enough loadout? And as you can see there, the mines dropped in the middle, so I couldn't evaporate, and things are going so quickly now. Things are getting nasty, and I've just damaged one of my lakes. I have to use the fireball at the bottom left. Things are going. I'm not getting the timing I need. Things are falling far too quickly for me to be able to use the fireball like I want. I've had to go with a bingo to save myself, which has only given me a power lake, nothing else. This is the opportunity here, but it's just the ice just wouldn't melt. So I'm filled with water. I need a fireball in the worst possible way. And I've always thought the earthquake was what was going to get me. But it's the fact that I need a fireball, and I can't move the blocks fast enough because they're coming down so quickly. I need a fireball to finish it off, but every time I got one, there was ice, there was mines, and there you go again, and that's what finished me off. I just couldn't find the right moment to find the fireball to actually evaporate. Otherwise, I could have gone on for another 10, 20 million maybe, who knows. But yeah, I did it. I got over 50 million points. That was my strategy. Just a bit unlucky on the timings of that. I should have maybe evaporated one of the smaller lakes instead, but that's a new personal best for me, 56,144,181. So there you have it, my new personal best score for Wetrix 2 on the PlayStation 2. It would have been higher if I would have kept my cool. Me dropping water in the wrong place didn't exactly help. I just couldn't break that loop of the ice and then the mines falling and me not getting fireballs at the right time to evaporate that giant flood I was experiencing, but hey, that's Wetrix. You know, it's funny that I was doing all that worrying about the earthquake meter and it was the ice that finished me off. Wetrix is a puzzle game that just has so many different ways to play it. I urge you to try it out, and I hope some of the tips that I mentioned in this video help you enjoy the game if you do try it. With a cleaner lake layout, better use of the down arrows, a little bit less panic when it comes to mines and ice, I could definitely improve upon this score next time I sit down to try it. And you can watch future attempts or any of my shows live on the OLL Twitch and YouTube channel, links in the description below. But of course, if I do improve my score on Wetrix, expect to see it here next time on Personal Best. This was Bill from Pop Culture Pause Screen. If you want to see more from me, just stick around for the continue screen coming up and click one of the videos there. Thanks for stopping by, and I hope to see you next video. Latest.